Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my live. My today's guest is a worldwide parent coach, meditation and breathwork teacher, motivational speaker, and a wellness advocate for Terra Essential Oils. She guides parents of babies, toddlers, teens, couples, and extended families to empower themselves and build healthy relationships with one another through effective communication, creating boundaries, self care, confidence building, and light hearted mindfulness techniques. I welcome Aparna Venkatraman. Welcome, Aparna.
Hi, Supriya. Nice to see you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aparna, for for agreeing to come for this interview, considering that our time zones are different.
No, my
And
pleasure. My pleasure. I've been looking forward to this. Thank you.
thank you. Your volume is a little low. Can you increase the volume? Is it
Yeah, can you
fine?
hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
yeah, it's better.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Yes, so thank you so much for agreeing to come for this interview, in spite of you being in a different part of the world and I being in a different part of the world. And I know it's 10 p.m. at night for you,
Okay.
but so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. No
All
problem.
right, Aparna. So I'll just want to know a little more about you. The thing is, you started pretty early in your career. It looks like from the, I think when you were in your teenage, coaching coaching parents. So what prompted you to start from that young age?
Yeah, so what prompted me for the past 20 years, and thank you for having me, is I started volunteering in my teen years in high school and in my summers before when I started getting some part time jobs. And I did a lot of volunteer work at the United Way, which is a nonprofit here in the US that helps families who are low on resources like food, electricity, shelter, clothing, things like that. And so I really saw the stress levels that families had at that time. And then I went on to study psychology in high school and then went on to study it more in college along with neuroscience. But I really had a lot of opportunities in my career, not only in children's hospitals and in preschools as a teacher, but a lot of opportunities to see the other side of families of what they were really needing beyond the health issues or the education or what was going on. And so I developed a huge interest in learning about the behaviors of why children are the way that they are, why families bond in a certain way, my mother and child bond in a certain way from the baby years and up. And so in a lot of my work with neonatal or premature babies, a lot of my work with infants and toddlers, I really got to learn what what the triggers are, what the behaviors are, how to communicate with your child to build that trust and that connection, that safety.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I just wonder, you specifically work with couples only, or as parents with respect to children also?
I work with both couples and I work with parents of primarily babies, toddlers, and teenagers right now. Sometimes I will work with the whole family if that's needed, but it's really primarily the parent who is coming to me needing help with either their relationship or whatever is going on with their child. I specialize in working with moms who are anxious and highly sensitive, and usually their partner or their child or their children are also sensitive in some ways. So we work on managing the sensitivities that come up, managing how to communicate with your child, managing the parent's self care, especially, and how you can create an easier environment at home, especially. I think is really key.
Absolutely. So, what from your years of coaching, because you're already been 20 years into this
Yeah,
industry. So,
yeah.
what have you noticed? What have you observed as the general issues that parents have or even couples have, which is impacting families?
The general issues are really how to communicate, how to express, how can a mom, especially, how can she express her needs and really be truthful about that and have an open conversation with what she needs, and putting herself first. I see a lot of moms who feel a lot of guilt for what's going on in their work, what's going on in their days, and by the time they get to the point of burnout, they already can't handle what's going on in their lives as well too. And so being proactive and kind of working your way back as a coach and saying, okay, this is when it started happening and this is what's happened so far. How can we manage this and create a better pathway for the family as well too? So a lot of it is managing your child's emotions, managing the any kind of frustration that comes up in their day-to-day life, whether it's with academically, whether you have a young child, whether you've got a teen child or adult children. And so a lot of the families I work with have multiple children, maybe two or three. And so it's a lot of how to bond together in that environment too. And so with the emotions that come up, how to manage those, how to communicate verbally and non-verbally with your child, I think is really key. How to be in, especially if you're highly sensitive, how to be in tune with what your family needs, instead of having to deal with the constant stress of communication that comes up too as well. So I want to not have a parent be walking on eggshells anymore, or dreading their days, or going to bed really stressed out and not sleeping well. I really focus on how they are taking care of themselves, especially.
Right. So yes, it looks like effective communication is one of the very important key
Yeah.
aspects to managing oneself and
Right.
also building a very strong family bond as well.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. The next thing is like I would like to know, you have talked about setting boundaries. So, what do you understand? I don't. What is it about setting boundaries? Why do we need to set boundaries in close, intimate relationships and family relationships? After all, they are our
Yeah.
family members.
Right. Setting boundaries is key, not only for self-care, but it helps. Gosh, it's such a huge one. It helps your child and your family know what to anticipate and what to expect in your day-to-day life. I mean, routines do that, but setting a boundary helps you to create some sort of a bubble and some sort of a sense of confidence of, hey, this is how it is, in a way that isn't a punishment or a consequence, but this is just how it is, and this creates the foundation for a family unit to have some sort of boundaries, and to help your child understand that in a parent taking space for themselves, or a sibling taking time for themselves, that the child can also self-soothe or self-regulate, or create that sense of boundary within themselves too, and that in turn will create that peaceful environment at home.
Right. So setting boundaries also compounds, is also like indicating of being a little assertive of what my needs are, because my needs are also as important as your needs. I respect my needs. I also respect your needs. And this is expressed
Right.
both from parents towards a child and also from children towards parents, right? So it's about mutual respect of needs and bonds, what is required, which also help to create the strong sense of not just bonding, also of trust between
Yeah,
parents and
yeah.
children, and also between parents as couples.
Being parents, especially understanding we go through a lot of your core values and your priorities and needs in life too. That's a lot of what I talk with parents about in the initial session of the consultation, is what they're prioritizing right now and what they really need and value in life the most. It really helps me to understand why things are the way they are, and why the behaviors are coming up too. Yeah.
Right. So it is about also emphasizing our individuality in a family unit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So, what is the importance? You're talking of self care. What is the importance of self care to improve relationships? How does that help to enhance relationships?
Gosh, so I mean, we talked about boundaries, and routines. I've seen it time and time again where if we continue on the path of hustling and always feeling like we need to be a superwoman or a superman or get everything done, or just continue on and never rest, or put it off and say, I'll take some time later on when I can. When we do that, we end up creating resentment in ourselves. We end up creating burnout. We end up creating guilt, and we end up not being able to be as present with ourselves and with our children, and honestly rest well at night as much as we need to, or during the day. Self-care, I love this area because everyone has different needs, as we talked about, but they have different activities that they enjoy. And understanding not only what the parent likes to do to recharge and what they really need, but also helping their child simultaneously to do that, and feel enriched in doing that, is really key to creating more, I think, fuller presence with your family when they really need it the most too. Is that in each person having their own time to offset emotions and stress and whatever's going on in their day, and staying consistent with that is really key. I find that as well too. And so when I'm coaching a parent, we are really staying on top of and staying accountable with how often we um, are practicing self-care, and what's going on in our thoughts, and patterns of when we what happens when we fall off track and aren't able to do that too, and what happens especially if things come up in life that we didn't anticipate. And so having that foundation of self-care helps you, especially when things come up, to be able to manage how your day is going, especially.
Right. So, because I would like to little more elaborate on self care, because in a country like India, individuality is not really encouraged. It's more of collectivity, right? It's not much of individuality. So, self care comes more under the gamut of um, looking at what are our individual needs also, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think are the aspects of self care? What it could be? Are they just hobbies that you want to learn? What it could be?
Self care can, I mean, it can be, meditation and breath work, which I teach. It can be going for some families, it's going for a walk on your own with the parent can do that, or the child, or the family together. For others, it's finding a hobby or a passion or craft that doesn't have anything to do with work. For other people, it's travel and really needing to go to a different environment to practice self care, especially if you're highly sensitive. Sometimes you'll need to step out and create a different environment. Or sometimes, just for parents, it's putting on noise canceling headphones, which I do encourage if you're having a day where you can't concentrate or focus. And so it really varies a lot for so many different people. And I try to, as a coach, incorporate and implement these kinds of activities that make sense for the parent, and not always, sometimes adding on so many new things at once can be really stressful for them, but really looking at what they actually enjoy. And that's where we come back to the needs and the values and priorities, but looking at what they actually enjoy. And I've had sessions where I've talked through with parents how to talk with your partner about incorporating more self-care activities, more date night activities or whatnot too, and how often you can do that, and what you're really benefiting out of that as well too. And for children, I think it's a nice look into what really what the emotion is and what really helps them to de-stress, especially like after school, or if they've had a rough day, or they're not having a pattern of not sleeping well. Looking at the activities that they like, because when you find something you enjoy, you're going to keep wanting to do that more. You're going to be intrinsically motivated by that. And so I never want to um, encourage people to do things that they really don't actually want to do, or they don't want to spend the money on, or they just don't want to spend the time and energy on.
Right, absolutely. That's great to know. So, what is the importance of? Okay, you're also talking about mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm also someone who do practice mindfulness, meditation, all those things, and I find it absolutely wonderful. So I want to also know how mindfulness, what exactly are you teaching in terms of mindfulness? Is it mindfulness activity or mindfulness as a meditation? What is it that you're talking in this
Yeah.
space?
So I've been fortunate to learn both pranayama and meditation, and it's beautiful. I have private clients who sometimes they just come to me for 30 minutes, an hour, and we will just lay down, or I'll be on the phone or on Zoom, and they will just listen to my voice and go through the ways to progressively relax their bodies and talk through any emotions that are coming up for them and set a visual scene. Usually it's a nature scene or something that they enjoy, and we talk through what helps with that. Um, we talk through the positions of how how they want to sit and how they want to lay down, um, getting comfortable with like a blanket or a bolster, things like that. And with breath work, I really look at, we start off very slowly on doing short practices with the parent or the parent or child or the student. And we go through actually how deeply they are breathing in their day to day and what kinds of things are triggers for them to breathe more shallow. Are they stressed out with work? Are they actually not sleeping well and that's just creating a pattern? Are they um, having trouble focusing if maybe they have had a stressful work day, or they like haven't eaten well, or or what's setting it off? Is it a conversation you're continually having with your child that's really stressful? Is it something with your partner that keeps coming up? So there are many different things that set off our breathing patterns, and that breathwork helps us to increase our lung capacity. It helps us to oxygenate our blood. It helps us to bring oxygen to the brain, and it really helps us to regulate and rewire our nervous system and create that connection towards our mind and body that that sometimes we can be very like unconscious of. We're not really aware that affects us, that negative thought is affecting how we're breathing, or maybe our posture or whatnot is not helping as much too. And it can even be like our posture when we're at our desk and working. But I go through a lot of techniques that are short and practical for parents, because most of the times that's all the time that they have, especially if you're a mom with a baby or a young child too. Or you need something like if you're about to go on a drive or go to the store, or like in the middle of your afternoon when you've had a long day and need something. And so we incorporate the kinds of techniques that they need. um, a lot of times I will do both meditation and breath work together in a session, but it's always client focused, and so I go off of what they need as well too. And so I have to tune in intuitively um, to what they will enjoy, as well as that. So mindfulness really is a huge ripple effect. Even just one parent learning some form of mindfulness, and that can be practicing that consistently, like in the shower or when they're getting ready. Or I encourage it a lot in the mornings and before bed, especially. I know a lot of people do it in the mornings, but before bed, I think really helps you to clear your mind. So often we can have a lot going on in our days or be on our phones, honestly, until whenever we're about to go to sleep. And creating a little unwind routine or a cool down routine really helps the parent to be able to help themselves at bedtime, and also honestly help their child, so their child will expect that calmer environment um, with any like sleep issues or anything that's coming up too.
And how does mindfulness impact the, yes, I understood that your mindfulness helps to create that calm environment because the parent themselves calm themselves down, right?
Right, right.
And how what difference have you seen when a parent is practicing mindfulness versus a parent not practicing mindfulness when they are interacting with their young children, whether it's a toddler, whether it's their teens? How is the interaction different? What is it, the testimonial that you have received
Yeah.
when they, prior to starting mindfulness and after starting mindfulness?
Prior to starting mindfulness, um, they're very stressed. They're very in their heads. They're overthinking things a lot and feeling really anxious. They're not able to relax. They're pretty tense, and we hold a lot. I do I do a lot of jaw relaxation, and practicing that, because we hold a lot of frustration and stress within our jaws, especially if we're, if we're like looking at screens a lot, if we're um, feeling overly anxious, if we haven't slept well. This can be an area, especially if you're breathing through the mouth too instead of the nose at night. And so I go through techniques to help you sleep better and sleep deeply, the ones that I've used on my own. But um, for those who haven't practiced mindfulness, you'll see that shift over time. And I will say, it usually takes about 6 weeks of consistent practice to see those huge um, long term benefits, so that you can get to the point of doing it on your own, especially, and do it and knowing when to do it, if it's during your workday or whatnot. But you will see that shift to a parent honestly feeling more confident, a parent feeling more motivated. They'll have more energy in their mornings. They'll feel like they are ready for their day, and they'll feel more positive about their days. You will see more eye contact with your child, and just really sitting and being present and being okay with not needing like the extra noise that is there, or like your attention span. Will definitely see a huge improvement in the ways that you are interacting with your child. And so overall, that'll bring about an environment that's more heart centered and more focused. Um, and you'll probably see some happier results with, some happier faces, some more of a growth mindset, or a mindset shift in how the family is. You'll probably see less yelling. I don't guarantee no more yelling ever, but you'll probably see, yes, less yelling and stress and frustration, and an easier shift into something that feels better in your day. So you can go to bed just feeling better, quite honestly. Yeah.
Fabulous. I think there's been so many benefits of mindfulness. Do even parents encourage their children, like teenagers, because teenage is one turbulent phase, right, where they
Right.
are going through this phase of self-expression. They want their identity
Hmm.
to be, preserved. So,
Yeah.
parents also encourage their young teens to do mindfulness with you?
Absolutely. I was just talking with a parent today, actually, who loves to spend time with her teen. I think I would say, first and foremost, with teens, it's wonderful for them to have like a playlist that they can have on their phone of songs that they like, things that are easily accessible to them is key. Right? They're not going to do something if it's going to take X, Y, and Z amount of minutes, or they have to go somewhere. But usually, but something that's accessible to them, something that they can honestly. I encourage them to, and I do this sometimes, to have music on when I'm getting ready in the mornings, to just having it play. Sometimes we used to do this as a family, of having music on our TV in the background while we're maybe cooking or having a quiet moment in our evenings after work. Those are, you as a family will find when your most stressful times of the day are, whether that's the morning, before bed, right after work or school, or, on the way to school, whenever. And so having that option of mindfulness, or calming music, or even like with highly sensitive parents, like a little worry stone or a crystal or some sort of sensory object, even like a stress ball, something that can help you to like feel more more familiar and more in tune with yourself, to have something that you hold. So I was talking with a mom today who loves to, they love to lay on the couch and watch movies together and things like that. And they are co-regulating and understanding each other's energies of, okay, this is a time and space where we want to spend time together, and we want to kind of mirror each other's like body positions, and the tone of voice is really wonderful too. And just really, bring about a more positive environment through our communication or whatever we're doing, having that focus. And so mindfulness can be a lot of physical contact. I talk with parents about the love languages that are available out there, words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, acts of service, and giving back, and things like that. And so every child has different needs, and you just kind of have to, it's not always easy, but you kind of just have to, even with couples, find out what helps you to make you tick, and what helps you to better understand yourself and what you like.
Fabulous. It's amazing because even one small aspect, like one element of your coaching is so in depth. I'm really like,
Yeah.
totally, it's impressive. So, can even at what age can, it's like you said, teenagers are also, encouraged into this practice of mindfulness. But at what age can someone start practicing mindfulness, like pranayama that you're teaching? This is a particular specific technique that you're teaching, right? So, at what
Yeah.
age can they be inducted into this?
I have done some deep breathing exercises with 2 and 3 year olds in the classroom too. And if you set the right environment, usually children, they like having more comfy places and pillows and things like that. Maybe their favorite, like stuffed animal, having on like we said, music that they may know from like a favorite artist or TV show or whatever that's a little bit more calming, or a voice. And I like to use, like, we do a lot of like bee breath or lion's breath, like using an animal that they know and creating a technique based off of that, or using a couple of different yoga poses, like some sort of child's pose or a wheel pose or tree pose, something that's an object that they know, right? Because they only have certain comprehension. But doing that, and practicing that, I mean, I would say, like I said, it takes a little bit of time to start a new practice, but making it, for the young children especially, making it interesting. I want to say fun, but then that kind of takes away the point of making it, you don't want them to
Right.
be energized. So most of these children um, are pretty energetic, but you're doing this to the point where, it's kind of like having a calm corner, which is something I help create with parents. And it would be like a corner like this, but like, cushions and like their favorite books and like really relaxing things that could turn into like even like a mindfulness or meditation altar space for parents. But it'll have like like things on the wall that like are easy visuals that you can see. So children are very in tune with their senses, their sight, taste, touch, everything too. So whatever you can do. I mean, you can even incorporate food in some aspect too, of having that sense of mindfulness too. A lot of parents I've worked with love to find ways to cook or make snacks with their child too in the day to just like create a more productive day, I think, overall.
Fantastic. So I can really see that you are offering a lot of value, a lot of insights, so much for your clients. So if I'll just share the 1 minute, I'll just share the link so that if anyone would like to contact you, they can easily contact you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Beautyandparenting.com. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, so they can email you so that you can
Right.
help to proceed to help with them. So if somebody is contacting you, what is the procedure like? How is the protocol like? What will you
Hmm.
be? How will you be helping them? How will you be
Well,
guiding
first,
them?
I generally do a 30-minute free 30-minute consultation with anybody, because a lot of times parents will come to me thinking that they need parenting help and they actually need more breathing techniques, and vice versa too. And so with breathwork and meditation, I've worked with, you know, people who are older. I've worked with college students. I've worked with teens. I've worked not just with parents, but with parent coaching, I go through it's called my wholehearted process and my wholehearted approach in parent coaching. So I will look at the ways that they are managing self care, managing their communication, and being effectively communicating verbally and non verbally with their child. I'll look at the ways that the emotions that are coming up for their family and how they're, being aware of it, how they're naming it and understanding it and managing it whenever it comes up. I'll look through the noticing celebration is a huge thing for the families that I work with, the parents that I work with, especially. And they generally want to get to a place where they feel more fulfilled in life, more happier, more joyful in some sense. And so we look at the ways that their mindset is affecting how they are proud, how they're feeling, not in a pride way, but how they are feeling proud of themselves, how they're feeling proud of their families, and what that means to them to feel proud. For some families, that's just not something that, passed down through generations that they ever really experienced. And so we can look at how to create more of that growth mindset, or building on the positive attributes of what's going on in the family and the strengths. So when I work with a client, we have a strength summary where after every session, I will note down what we talked about and the positive feedback of what to work on in the future. And that's their homework of really to reflect on what's going well too. And so we notice by the end of our sessions that mindset shift and how they're able to talk about the things that they appreciate in life too, which is actually not very easy for families at the moment with a lot going on in the world, a lot of different stressors. And so I'm there to be a guide and to help them connect back to themselves and connect back to the bigger picture, which is the last component of what I work on, seeing the bigger picture of the great things, the really important things that matter the most in life too. And so a parent will come to me with a situation that's going on. It can be anywhere from sleep or potty training or communication issues or emotions to, or even self-care and wanting to work on mindfulness to, they'll come to me with those things, and I will help to guide them through the solutions that they need for that specific area. But I'll also make sure these other aspects, the 5 that I just talked about, are going well, because I want them to leave our sessions feeling like they have techniques and insights into being a more wholehearted parent and being heart-centered in their family unit. As you know, that ripples outwards. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So is there any final note you would like to add on for couples who are also parents?
Yeah. For couples who are also parents, gosh, um, practicing some form of mindfulness together, having that consistent self-care. I talk a lot about date nights, but having that consistent connection time, whatever that looks like, as a couple really matters, and creating that boundary to that in a positive way to be able to do that. As you know, I know that that it's easy for our kids to really want so much of our attention, but creating that time for us, um, to make sure we're on some sort of a similar page, I think is really my aim in working with couples and in better getting to know, their needs and priorities and values. I think once you know those things, it really shifts the family unit, and it shifts what the parents are also prioritizing too, consciously or unconsciously, whether they're prioritizing work or whether they're prioritizing, um, how their partner is feeling as well. Yeah.
Right. So it basically comes down to one's priorities and one's value, which reflects in various
Yeah.
aspects of a person's life, including family structure.
Right. And
Fantastic.
understanding that evolves over time too. So that's why it's important
Um,
to understand
you,
those and just go off of it.
yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Aparna. This was a very valuable session. I too learned a lot
Yeah.
about self care, about having, working from the space of knowing one's priorities,
Mhm.
becoming aware of one's own values. I really hope, you are able to, like, if many more people approach you. I do wish, many more people approach you and you're able to help many more people in this world, because what you do is a wonderful thing, and it really is the need of the hour. It is the need of the hour, something like mindfulness and individual growth, which will reflect in families growth and family harmony as well, which is the need of the hour in today's times. Thank you so much, Aparna. This was a fantastic session. I really appreciate that.
No,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you so much for having me. I really hope that this helps those who are watching and those who are out there. Feel free to contact me. I'm here for you to share resources, anything that I can do to help support you. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.